please put a warm welcome and your hands together and welcome Dr. Ann Udall.
Good morning. I feel like I just followed a whole stand-up sort of 45 minutes with you and then Ruth and Francie. Note to self, do not try to make jokes after Francine, which I'm about to do, so this is already, I'm feeling a little bit more nervous than I was. But it's good to know I'm with the upper limit. So that was nice to hear that the upper limit was actually in this room. So I also want to welcome you to the city of Portland. I've been here now for 5 years, and I moved here from Charlotte, North Carolina. So try to hold those two a little bit in your mind. It's a little bit of a culture shock. And if you want to do any work on ladder of inference, you can just spend the time thinking about what people in Charlotte think about Portland and what people in Portland think about Charlotte. We've got a great opportunity to teach people about the ladder of inference. So it's been tough for me because my roots are in the desert of deserts, and so holding my love of the Northwest with my desert rat has been a little bit difficult, although climate change is making that a little bit easier. So I thought, like Francine, she took some of what I was going to say, but Amelia also helped me out. I thought I might give you a few tips on how to fit in when you're here for the next few days. So let's just illustrate Francine's. I know it's a little early to be seeing a naked man on a bicycle. This is, in fact, Portland is known for having the first and only naked bike ride in the United States. And my best story is Deborah Campbell, who some of you may know is the city planner in Charlotte, North Carolina, came out to visit me. She walked outside one evening to go to the drugstore, and she ran into the naked bike ride, and she is still recovering from that experience. So the first rule of thumb, if you're visiting here, is don't stare. No matter what you see, don't stare. Okay? The second thing that I like to say is, this is not the best slide for this example, but the second thing I like to say is if it rains, which I think you're going to be like, please do not carry an umbrella. It so marks you as a tourist. Third tip is, if it is rainy, wear a cotton hoodie and shorts. This is absolutely imperative. In most parts of the world, cotton is known as the death fabric. In Oregon, it's denial. So, next tip, act as if you love dogs, especially rescue dogs. Really, in restaurants, the stores, everywhere else are, you have to act like you love dogs. And should you party or go to all those strip clubs and you need an emergency room, my suggestion would be that you go to the Doug Lewis Animal Hospital, because it is the best medical facility I have ever seen. Next, thank your bus drivers profusely and genuinely. This is a tradition in Portland. The first 3 months I was here, I kept saying to my partner, are these people on drugs? It would not be raining this much and people be this kind, but it really is a city, which I think you'll find that to be. Don't ask any Portlanders if they watch Portlandia. And thank you, Amelia, because my last tip was, please do not say Oregon or Willamette. You help me out. And Amelia, the way to remember it, Willamette, damn it. It's Willamette, damn it. So there you go. Okay. So, Francine, thank you for my very kind introduction. I always want my mother in the room and, wonderful things are said about me. So I'm delighted to be the kickoff speaker for you all. When I first realized that public participation work was my love, it was where my heart was, and a lot of that came out of being introduced to the America Speaks model through Carolyn Richards-Meyer and the whole New York gathering, was where I really realized this was work I was going to love. It was the IAP through training that really the way, he does a lot of public participation work, a lot, and I think it's one of the areas that is actually pretty significantly overlooked. But this is kind of where my heart is. So as Francine said, let's see if I can get that. Where do I press through? Oh, let's go to the next one. Yeah, there we go. So I come from a family where working toward the common good is part of our DNA. It's whether it's in a role of an elected official, a school teacher, a nonprofit director, public defender, those are, to name just a few career choices of the over 500 relatives that I belong to. Now, it's this Mormon thing, okay? When you got 14 great grandmothers, do the math. So there's a lot of us running around, and the calling to be part of working toward the common good is very much a part of who I am. And I know that you all, by being here today, that you all carry that same commitment to the work of seeking common ground through genuine and deep engagement with others. So my initial experience when I was in my 20s and I knew everything, right? You remember those days? You knew everything. And I got a chance to work for my dad's failed presidential campaign. Apparently it's come up again because when he ran for president, there were 16 other Democrats running. Apparently now the parallel to the Republicans have been made, and Dad has gotten a little bit of ink recently. But this is when I really learned about the joys and the challenges of being engaged with the public. And I think it was a very transformative experience for me. And I think as Francine talked about, since I've been gainfully employed in a number of other things over the past 40 years, I've been actively engaged in public participation. The League Institute, she mentioned, we did a lot of work at League, and I'm very proud of it. And the League Institute, we did two things. We housed the American Leadership Forum, and we also did a lot of public participation work. And it's where I really learned about public participation as a person who participated in design of various different community issues. Excuse me. We also housed the Charlotte Region American Leadership Forum, which is a pretty amazing program. How many of you are familiar with ALF? Do I have any senior fellows in the room? Great, okay, so you can tell folks. So ALF is an amazing program where we bring together established leaders, spend a year together. The whole idea is if people don't disagree when they come into the room, we haven't pulled together the right group of people. And the second rule of thumb is if you have time, we don't want you. So we look for established leaders, bring them together, and we're all focused on how you build a collaborative good how you build collaboration for the common good. Oregon has had a chapter here now for 30 years. Portland has had, Charlotte has had one for about the past 12. And there are 8 others around the country. So over the past 20 years in my role as the vice chair and now chair of the Udall Foundation, I've been intimately involved in the leadership of the, I think it's this one. Are you doing this too, or me?
You got it. You got it this time.
Did I get it at that time, or we kind of going back and forth?
Yeah.
So if I just do this, we move to the next.
I can do that too.
No, not yet. So everybody, when I talk about the Udall, go back to the last one, if you can. When I talk about the Udall Foundation, everyone goes, "Oh, it's a family foundation." No, it's not a family foundation. It's actually a federal agency, and it was established in 1996 by Congress to honor the legacy of both Mo and then we recently had Stu's name. And it houses 2 programs. It houses the Udall Scholarship and Education Program. So I have any Udall scholars in the room? We're old enough now. They're everywhere. These are kids who come, I can say kids now, they're juniors and seniors who come who get scholarships in the area of environmental conflict, public health, and Native American issues, and they get a scholarship, and they have to come to Arizona for 5 days in August in order to get them a check. Yeah, exactly. 5 days in Tucson, and they love it. They love it. That's because they can run around in very short dresses and T-tops. They can just have a great time. And they're everywhere in the country now. And they're all rising up. So look for them in your places of work because they're pretty remarkable. And then the second program we have is the Institute for Conflict Resolution. Thank you. And the U.S. Institute was started a couple of years after the foundation. The foundation houses the Institute. You'll be interested to know that the Institute was a dream child of Dennis DeConcini and John McCain, actually. And the main work of the Institute is to mediate and or broker services between federal and other government entities in order to resolve environmental conflict issues through participation, dialogue, and mediation. So basically, before agencies can sue each other, they are asked to go through a way of working through them. The U.S. Institute offers direct services and also broker services. And we have a roster for those of you who are interested in this work. Get yourselves on the roster because there's lots of opportunity to find yourself into this work. So, and it was really formed out of the belief that this is a novel idea, right? The government agencies should actually work together for the common good, instead of suing each other. And so most of the conflicts that the Institute works on are deeply, deeply entrenched issues that have been around for a really long time. I think we've got this. I put up a few examples for you guys. So you can see by just looking at this, they are deeply entrenched. So to give you some examples, some of you may even be engaged in some of this work. And we have a small but mighty staff housed in both Tucson, Arizona, and Washington, D.C. So as vice chair and now chair, I work with a board of directors, mainly appointed by the Senate to oversee the vision of the work. So all said, you're all here because you know that public participation comes from the belief that by gathering people together and listening to each other, we can find common ground for the challenges we face. The conference program is so rich, and there's lots and lots of examples of this and ways that you guys are going to learn from each other. It's pretty simple hypothesis that we test whenever we do public participation work. And the hypothesis is this, that if we bring people with different perspectives and experiences together, they will solve problems. And it's a pretty straightforward, simple if-then. And it's hard work. And what I was excited to hear about is how much the work continues to have value and growth and excitement. Because right now, in today's world, voices are louder, time to give is shorter, and stress is absolutely higher in people's lives. So what I want to do, even in the face of louder voices, lesser time, and harder issues, public participation works. Except when it doesn't. So what I want to talk about today is when it does work. So I'm going to come at it from an appreciative inquiry approach. And I have come, between my own career working on the Institute, I've come to sort of 10 lessons I've learned, right? But because this is about public participation, and we've talked to you guys all for the past whatever amount of time, we're going to do a little participatory keynote here. So before I give you my 10, I'm going to ask you guys to think about an activity. So I want you to think of 2 public engagement activities you've been involved in. They can be really simple, they can still be ongoing, but just 2. If it's too early for you and you only can think of one, that's okay too. I'm thinking we can all come up with one. And I want you to think about what made one successful and what made one not so successful. However you define success. We're not going to get into a whole lot of my success and just real quick. And I want you to identify 3 to 5 reasons why it worked. And just jot those down right now. And then I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. Take a few minutes. once you have your list, if you will, now, it's always a scary thing in a room full of people to say, I want you to talk to the person next to you because I've lost you at that point, okay? So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to compare your list and just come up with a couple. What I'm giving you is an advanced organizer, right? Basically compare your list against the ones I'm going to talk about. So see sort of what's on your list, kind of get a checklist or something together, and then when I sort of make noise or do something up here or raise my hand, if we can bring everybody back, then we'll start looking at what I've got up here. We'll compare notes, okay? So talk to someone, sort of see what's on your what works list, and then I'll come back in a couple minutes. Got it? Lesson that I learned through is that
Just don't rely on technology.
Participate in issues that matter to them. Okay. So what's the old joke about the definition of apathy? Next. I don't know and I don't care. So folks show up for things that matter to them. And you know, whether it's a charrette or a public hearing or a large public engagement activity, they show up because things matter. It's the reason you come to the conference, it's the reason we do it. It's because things matter. It seems really simple, but it feels like it's a pretty fundamental condition that we all have to remember when we do this work. It has to have relevance. And the difference, and I'll tease this out a little bit, is it's not about seeking out people that just have positions. So you can care about an issue and not have a position on it. And that one for me is really what I have learned around sort of, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. The other thing that I've learned in a little bit of dabbling in the brain research work is that there's actually a pretty strong connection between, you have to have an emotional connection to something before you can actually cognitively engage. So this is also part of the thinking behind this. Second one is people have to feel like their participation is going to make a difference. So that's the second lesson for me. And this is one of the things that I think, I've been thinking about this in preparation for talking today, was it feels like the closer an issue is to people, the easier it is to engage. And I'm wondering sometimes if some of our national, how paralyzed we are nationally around conversations because issues feel so big to people that they almost get paralyzed by it. So the reason that I love community work, the work I did at Lee Institute, is because I felt I was really closer to people's day-to-day realities, and you could have conversations about things that matter to them. So, and I also think that the more local work is also sometimes the more satisfying work to people, for you all as practitioners, because you're actually engaged sometimes in the communities where you live or in issues that matter to you as well. I think so third lesson is if you want to avoid a big mess, be sure to define why and how you want people to participate prior to beginning the work. So big mess, that's a very academic term. We all know what a big mess looks like in this world. And so why are you asking the public to be involved? What is the ultimate goal? Is it to voice opinion? Is it to make decisions? So I think this is probably my all-time favorite part of the town. Hope you guys can see it. Exactly. So I've probably broken every copyright. Google is an amazing thing. Before Google, that's my word. So, fourth lesson. Furthermore, you need to define public. So, this was a pretty key concept for me to grasp. So when you talk about public participation, who actually are you talking about? So are you talking about just stakeholders that have an absolute view in the room and you want to get all them together? You're talking about people that you want to get larger. So how do we define that term when you're doing this work? Who do we want to be involved in to what level? We know this because any of us in this work, that one of the most frustrating things for people is public hearings. And it's because we use the term public in a way that it's a shorthand for inviting all the usual suspects, right? So we say we're going to have a public hearing, and all the usual people show up. And then we wonder why it keeps happening over and over again, and it just feeds itself, right? So if you only want the public you know, then it really won't be the deep public participation you're seeking. And so when I was assistant superintendent in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, the worst, I'm telling you, I would rather have a root canal than go to a student assignment hearing. How many of you have been engaged in student assignment or school boundary hearings? Okay, so for the rest of you that have missed this wonderful opportunity, they're classic examples where the failure to define the rules of the game leads to anger and disillusionment, right? So often what they are, they're not hearings. There are a whole lot of people that take a number, that sit for hours to speak for 3 minutes on why you should not change the boundaries for my child. And then they sit down and the next one comes up and the school board members all sit there and then at the end of it they go and make all these decisions that have not been informed, right? So I'm seeing a lot of that. And I said it earlier, education is in such a desperate need of doing more work around public participation. Imagine school boundaries that were actually determined by a group of people that came together that weighed individual need with community need. And my guess is some of you have some examples of that, which I would love to hear about. But this whole idea of defining public is a really important piece of the puzzle. Okay, number 5. Oh, yeah, this is a good part to go around public meetings. Public meeting is the last of the blood sports. Okay, this is for calm. This is my favorite Southern expression. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for people who don't have dogs in the fight to be in the room. So, next one. Getting people to engage takes a lot of resources and then some more. So, this is I learned this the hard way. So we did a 1,500 town hall, Carolyn Lucasmeyer, America Speaks model in Charlotte, North Carolina, a number of years ago called United Agenda for Children, where we sought 1,500 public voices to talk about the children in Charlotte. And what I realized pretty quickly is sending out an email or even just doing just any sort of easy kind of come didn't work. That we had to do more than we ever thought was possible. And you all have lots and lots of creative ideas. Thank you. You all have lots and lots of creative ideas about how to get people engaged. And you have to do that if you want people to be part of this work. And it is hard to do. So my favorite story, which is so politically incorrect, I'm going to own it. I think maybe I would do it differently, but I'm not too sure if I would. So we needed, so one of the things we need, when you are talking about children, who do you think come? Parents, who else? What gender? Women, lots of women. So, you know, part of the America Speaks model is to match the demographics of the work that you're doing. So we needed a lot of males. And so we took the two very young interns in our office and we sent them to all the Rotary Club meetings to invite all the gentlemen at the Rotary clubs to attend our hearing, our America Speaks meeting. We got there. We actually got our gender numbers. When I think back at it, well, you know, sometimes the end does justify the means, right? And that's a longer conversation. So these are just a few sort of examples up there. So next lesson I learned is us versus them does not work very well. There are lots of reasons school assignment hearings didn't work. I covered a couple of them, but one of the biggest reasons is the fact that it's a zero-sum game, right? So somebody wins, somebody loses, and when you have that scenario, it's pretty hard to force solutions. So this means that when you gather people together, you have to have this idea that there's something that can emerge that looks different than whatever you're bringing into the whole concept, new concept of dialogue, and getting people to think that, I love the idea of not common ground, but new ground. So you're not actually seeking common ground, you're actually seeking new ground. And so a lot of that is how do you get people into the room where they haven't already decided or they're willing to open up their mind to this. So next one is once people show up, efficient, effective, and fair processes will keep them there. So the best example I've had of not an efficient, effective, and fair process would be the next slide, which is a great goal for I don't know how many of your public process looks like this. But what you want, and again, pretty straightforward, but we all know this, is that you need to have a neutral convener, a really well-trained facilitator, a clear, focused agenda, and defined ground rules. So all of that, again, sort of 101, but good to remember. And these are the kinds of things that the U.S. Institute does pretty straightforward in their work, and it works with very entrenched environmental disputes, and it works in very simple meetings. Next slide. Keep going, Drew. Find a champion. So you can have a well-defined process, you can get all the people in the room, you can have their outcomes defined, but I have really gotten pretty hooked on this idea that you need someone with a lot of respect who is not seen as having a perspective or point of view, who can help champion the process, not the solution. And one of the things that we did at Lee Institute when we were doing stuff around school facilities is the former governor of North Carolina, a man named Jim Martin, Governor Martin, actually acted as our champion. And he had so much respect across all segments of the issue, he was able to champion getting people at the table. And nobody thought he had a perspective or point of view, so he became a really good individual to, who was really committed to the process. So you don't want a champion that's associated with the point of view. You want someone who's really about the process. Number 9, understanding the longevity of the work and celebrating small gains. Look at, yep. So look at that. So Stephen Covey, you can't talk yourself out of the situation we walked ourselves into, is a gentle reminder that this work takes a long time. And I remember once being in a room where a woman had been doing community work, and somebody said, well, how long did it take? And she just stared at him and she said, well, it's taken my lifetime. And there was this like dead silence in the room, and she's like, yeah, that's just the way this work is, right? So knowing that it takes a long time means you want to celebrate. You want to celebrate the successes, and you want to make sure that you call those out. All right, as a good speaker knows, you always leave the best for last, and this was mentioned actually. So the 10th condition, oh yeah, there you go, appreciative inquiry. The next one is it's all about relationships. I I have come to believe absolutely all change comes from relationships. Doesn't mean it's not about process and agendas and all that, but it absolutely comes down to relationships. I want you to think about your list that you just made. How many of you actually identified a relationship in that or called that out as a key component? Yeah. For me, if you, core of the success is where the relationships exist. And I'm not talking about you have to like or dislike people, but you've got to have the trust and the confidence that people are going to do what they say and say what they do. So it's absolutely about how you build that, how you set that up. And in the leadership program, American Leadership Forum, as senior fellows here know, one of the ways they build trust is they put people in an outward bound course for 5 days in Charlotte. Here they take them out and they put them on a mountain. You can't do that often, but you can look for ways of getting people outside of their position and what they represent to having a conversation about who they are and why it matters. Pitcher of Beer is up there because one of my favorite stories, any of you from the Northwest are familiar with the whole entrenched Klamath Restoration Act, all the water wars. So when you talk to, and they have done, if you want an example of amazing collaboration work, you need to study that. It is an amazing story of how a community came together. And what two of the players in that will tell you is that what brought them together was a pitcher of beer. That they were angry at each other, they had spent the day arguing, they found themselves both in a bar, not a strip joint, a bar. And the leader of one of the tribes bought a pitcher of beer, set it down on the table next to my friend Greg Addington and said, let's talk. And literally, they tell that story. When people say, how did you reach the agreement? They say pitcher of beer. So it could be wine in Portland. So that's really my 10. So I want to put them up here. Give you a moment to look at them. I'm watching my time, Francie. What I'd love to do is just for a couple minutes ask you what you think I missed. What's maybe something you had that you just want to call out that you think was an important piece of your success. And I'm looking for very succinct, sort of 1 or 2 second things. And I'm a school teacher, so I'm just going to wait until someone responds to the question. Bottom up. Okay, great. Yes?
Treat it like a learning space
Treat it like a learning space
for both parties.
for both parties. Nice. Great. Who else?
Transparency.
Transparency. Yes?
Preparation.
Preparation. Yep.
Involvement in the process.
Involvement.
Involvement in the process.
Involve them in the process, the design, and kind of how it's going to happen. Great. Yes?
Support for the process.
Support for the process.
At all levels.
At all levels, right? Yeah. Handouts. Who's doing the handouts? No. Food. Did anybody put food on their list? Yeah, food is like huge, right? All of you poor people who work for government agencies where you have all these silly rules now about you can't bring, it's like what brings people together? Beer and food, right? Yes. I'm sorry?
Many of you speak to it, but trust.
Trust, yeah.
Level of trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Multiple forms of engagement.
Multiple forms of engagement. So not just sitting in a room. Yeah, that's great. You're never as a teacher supposed to say, oh, that's great. And everyone goes, well, my idea was pretty cool. So everybody's idea is cool. That's what I had thought of. Okay, good. Cool. Yes?
Be open to adapting the process.
Be open to adapting your process. Yeah, we love, facilitators, we love our little agendas, so we are doing this right now. Yes?
Respect for the public's intelligence.
And respect for the public's intelligence. Yes?
Authentic curiosity.
Authentic curiosity.
I'd like to know whether the champion is political, and we understand it's for process.
Yes.
We're trying to understand whether the champion is a politician, whether the champion is, who the champion is.
Yes. So it could be anybody that, I think it has to be someone respected, that's known in the community, or known in the, as someone, yes. And Governor Martin was a politician, and he fit
with that bill, I could think of other examples where, and I'm sure you all have some examples, so good question. Yes,
Go to where they are.
Yeah. yeah, go to where they are, Rotary clubs notwithstanding. Yes, this is great. Yeah, way in the back and then we'll go up here. Yeah.
Maintain a sense of humor in the midst of doing serious work.
Yes. You know, I almost added humor to my list too, because if you can't, and starting with yourself, right? I mean, you need to be able to laugh at yourself, and that's like really important. So, yes.
Well, I was just saying that some of the principles you've mentioned need to be applied within your own organization, not just with the public.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting? We should really talk to each other. You know, I don't know about you guys. But the worst experiences I ever have is facilitating a group of facilitators.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. Enough said, right? Yes.
Help people learn about the options before you ask them to pick one.
Not secretively, sort of, yeah. Great. Yes.
Symbolic props.
Symbolic props.
So for a budget game in San Jose, we play money. And everybody gets, if there's 8 people at the table, everybody gets 1/8 of the budget that's left for the city. And then they put the money down on the things that they want.
You know, that reminds me of pipe cleaners. Any of you use pipe cleaners on your, or toys? So that's props. That's the other thing is to like put stuff, adults, when you make them sit, it's, look at you all, you're like, yeah. That's it. Okay, we're almost there. Yeah.
If your decision makers don't buy into the process, it doesn't matter how good the process is.
Yeah. Yeah. Decision makers don't buy into your process, no matter how good you think your process is. All right, I'm going to get these two here and that one in the back, and then we're going to quit. And we should probably start a big poster somewhere for people, lessons learned. This would be great. We could just do stick-em notes. Yes. Demonstration, so people could see what it looks like. Okay, Francine, see she's coming closer. All right. Yes. Yeah. So having the process, did I hear you say having it available now?
Well, just recording the process as you go.
Oh, recording it, yeah, making sure you keep the history. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, you guys, I think I'm going to get yanked, and I actually have a few more things I want to say. So stay there. Hold on. I know. All right, so quick checklist, and we'll get you all of this. We'll get you this deck so you can get all this. And these are the kinds of questions I ask myself when I'm looking at or seeing some public participation. So again, we'll get this to you. So what I want to say just at the end, hold on, Francine, it won't take too long, is I want to circle back to the title of my presentation today, which was If It's Not Okay, It's Not the End. Lessons learned about public participation. So I don't know about the rest of you. I know there's a couple of you in the room who get everything ready 2 months in advance. But Susan kept bugging me, and Amelia, and all these people like, please give us your presentation. I'm like, no, I work on it the night before. I'm not giving you my presentation. So she finally said, give me a title. Just give me a title. Give me something I can put in the program. So I thought about what I really wanted to say overall about this work. And what I realized was that the quote of, if it's not okay, it's not the end, actually sums it up for me. So first thing about this work is you have to be an optimist. If you are a cynic or a pessimist in this work, you may want to consider another career. Just saying, okay? Just saying. So that's really what I've learned. What I've learned is that against all odds, a path is always found, that it's then lost and found again, that the work never ceases, and I encourage you to practice optimism beyond reason, and to live in the knowledge that if it's not okay, it's not the end yet. And there's always someone to help you find a happy ending when you are just a bit too tired to carry the water and chop the wood a little bit more. Drew, my very last slide, if you put that up there. So I want to thank you all. keep going, I think it's next one. Right. So I want to thank y'all for the hard work you engage in every day. My dad used to quote an old saying, and it went like this: "A woman has made at least a start on discovering the meaning of human life when she plants shade trees under which she knows full well she will never sit." So I'm grateful to all of you for the trees you plant through the work you do. I hope you enjoyed Portland. I hope you enjoyed the conference, and thank you very much.
Thank you, yes. Thank you, yes.